It's funny how often certain ingredients pop up in our food, things we barely notice. Today, we're going to take a closer look at one, silicon dioxide. It's a really interesting example of sorting science from, well, online noise.
Absolutely. And this deep dive actually started with a great question from a listener, Kinsu. They'd seen some claims on Reddit, approached Professor Lin about them, worrying that maybe silicon dioxide nanoparticles could mess with the immune system.
Right, I saw that. And what's cool is Ken Su was already thinking critically, like questioning the research cited
Mhm.
and whether nanoparticles were even the right thing to worry about in food.
Exactly. That critical approach is really key.
So that's our plan. We'll unpack this whole thing, look at the actual science, bust a few myths that are floating around, and hopefully give you some better tools for evaluating this kind of health info yourself, even if you haven't got a science background. Okay, let's dig in. So Kinsu's first flag was this Reddit post, right, about a supplement brand. And someone commented pretty dramatically that research showed silicon dioxide nanoparticles, quote, directly interact with immune cells, impairing their function, and could lead to an overactive immune response. Sounds kind of alarming.
It does sound
Eh,
alarming, yeah.
Yeah.
And Professor Lin confirmed, look, there are studies. There's a 2018 review, for instance, about the toxicity of silicon nanoparticles to the immune system. And yes, those specific nanoparticles studied can show damage to immune cells in certain settings. But, and this is a big but,
This is where Kensu's skepticism was totally justified, because all those studies showing the scary immune effects, they were done in labs, cell cultures, animal models. That's it.
precisely. The review paper itself didn't actually extrapolate those findings to suggest harm in humans from food sources.
So a cell in a dish is not the same as you eating your soup mix.
Not at all. And it raises that crucial question. How do we interpret lab studies? What happens in a petri dish, or even a mouse, doesn't automatically translate to human health, especially considering dose and the specific type of particle.
Right. Not all nanoparticles are the same beast,
Exactly. Context is everything.
which leads perfectly to Kensu's other point. Are these nanoparticles even in our regular food?
Yes, but again, context matters. Silicon dioxide is widely used as a food additive. You'll often see it listed as E551, its main job, anti-caking agent. It stops powders from clumping.
Ah, so like in table salts, spices, those powdered drink mixes.
Exactly. Coffee creamers, baking powder, protein powder, soup mixes, even supplements themselves use it to keep things free-flowing.
Okay, so it's definitely common. Which brings us to the big safety question. Is that form, the E551 food additive, safe to eat?
Well, that's where we look at major reviews. There's a key one from 2016 focusing specifically on the safety of this food additive form called SAS, or synthetic amorphous silica. It concluded that this type, E551, which has rules about particle size generally needing to be over 100 nanometers, caused no adverse effects in repeated oral dose studies, even at high doses.
No adverse effects. So no issues with liver, reproduction, development, immune system.
Correct. The review found no evidence of toxicity in those areas, or neurotoxicity, and it wasn't genotoxic, meaning it didn't damage genes in living organisms.
Okay, that sounds pretty reassuring. What about the European Food Safety folks, EFSA?
Right, EFSA reevaluated E551 in 2018. They found it's poorly absorbed by the body, which is generally a good sign for safety. They did note limitations in some data, particularly around specific nanoforms, but across the board in standard toxicology studies, subchronic, reproductive, developmental, they found no signs of adverse reactions.
So it's still looking okay.
Yes. They also concluded E551 doesn't raise genotoxicity concerns. While they mentioned needing more long-term data specifically on nanosilicon dioxide within the E551 category, their overall conclusion was clear. Based on the available data, at the levels it's used in food, there were no indications of toxicity.
So for you listening, the takeaway seems to be the regulated food additive form, E551, have been looked at pretty closely, and the scientific consensus considers it safe. The scary stuff online often confuses it with different types studied only in labs.
Precisely. And Professor Lin also wanted to tackle another separate myth that popped up.
Oh, another one. Do tell.
Yeah, this claim that silicon dioxide is some kind of indispensable nutrient that you must supplement constantly to absorb calcium for your bones. Professor Lin basically called that nonsense.
Right, so just because it's allowed as an additive doesn't mean it's needed as a nutrient.
Exactly. Those are two totally different things. It's a legal food additive, E551, used for its physical properties, like anti-caking. It's not classified as an essential nutrient you need to supplement for bone health or anything else. That's just misinformation.
That's a perfect example of how facts can get twisted, isn't it?
It really is.
Wow. Okay, so this whole deep dive, sparked by Kensu's great questions, really shows how important it is to, ask those follow-up questions. Don't just take the first claim you see, especially if it sounds alarming. Look at the type of research in the actual context.
Couldn't agree more. We've clarified that yes, certain nanoparticles studied in labs can have effects, but the specific form used widely in food, E551, is considered safe by regulatory bodies based on extensive reviews. And that idea about needing it for calcium, just not backed by science.
So the next time you come across a health claim, maybe on social media, maybe in an article, just pause. Ask yourself, okay, what's the source of this research? Is it lab cells, animals, or humans? Are they talking about the form I actually encounter? Is the conclusion being exaggerated? It's really about empowering yourself with that critical lens, just like Kensu did. Don't be afraid to question.